Hey guys, Ron here. Sorry about all the traffic noise, but that's LA, especially when you're getting close to rush hour or in rush hour. The building behind me there that you're looking at now, I'm getting closer so you can hear me, but you may see my head in the picture because it's so loud. That is the final residence of the great late actor and comedian Don Knotts. Don Knotts lived in these condos on the 4th floor. It's right on Beverly Glen Boulevard, which is very busy thoroughfare. As you can see, it goes the west side of LA all the way up to San Fernando Valley, over Mulholland, over the hill, and becomes Van Nuys Boulevard. Anyway, Don Knotts lived here at the end of his life with his last wife and died here in 2006. Unfortunately, Don had lung cancer and in the end contracted pneumonia and died. And just shortly before he died, his very good friend Andy Griffith visited him, and Don was pretty out of it, but Andy Griffith told a story how he said, "Don, just breathe, breathe." Actually, Don called him Jesse, which was his first name. Don didn't like being called Jesse, but it was his real first name. He said, "Jesse, breathe, breathe." And he said he swore he could see Don shrug his shoulder and breathe a little bit. And he tells a very heartwarming story of Don Knotts' last days. Anyway, let's talk about Don's life now. I've got the dog, another big dog just sniffed my dog. I didn't even know they were coming. That's life. There's the building again. So I'm going to talk mostly about Don's career, then I'll pull out my notes and talk a little bit about his early life. Well, yes, that's correct. So, still showing the building here. He had a very large house prior to this, so I'm not saying that this was a big step down, but it's kind of interesting to me that he lived in a condo at the end of his life. It is a 3-bedroom condo though, and I believe it's over 3,000 square feet. So it's no slouch of a condo, but it's not a Beverly Hills mansion. But Don Knotts was born in 1929, and he had an interesting life, didn't they all? His mother had him when she was 40 years old, quite like my mother. And when you're born to a mother, that's not 20, who's 40, it kind of changes your life. It makes you a little more serious, a little more introspective. Your parents generally aren't party animals as you're growing up because they're a little bit older, they're in middle age. So it changes the way you grow up. And evidently this changed Don too. Now the real tragic thing was his father was not only an alcoholic, but schizophrenic. So he could become violent at times too, and he was known to chase Don around with a knife. So could you imagine that? However, he died when Don was, I believe, 13. I'm going to pull out some notes here so I get everything right for you. No notes. I had the notes from yesterday's vlog. It's okay, I don't need them. Just to say that Don started on radio. He was quite a serious and quiet guy, as most great comedians are. But, he longed to make people laugh. And he started out in radio, and eventually, I'll get to the good part, eventually he made it to a show called No Time for Sergeants. Actually, when I was at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, we had some people do scenes from that play. And in No Time for Sergeants, in the play, he met the lead, of course, and that was Andy Griffith. And Andy Griffith said that on the second rehearsal, he recognized Don's voice from, I guess it was a radio show that Don had done, a character that Don had done on radio. So they became friends, but Andy said that after the show, they didn't see each other too much until Don saw opportunity. Not to take away from their friendship, but, of course, we all know that Andy Griffith was given the opportunity in 1959, 1960 to do his own TV show, and of course that became the iconic Andy Griffith Show. By the way, the reason I'm doing this vlog today is because just out of the blue earlier today I was on YouTube and I happened to see an interview with Don that just came out of nowhere on how he created his sort of what he called his nervous man character. And then after that I watched an extremely touching tribute with Andy Griffith just about a week or so after Don died, and Andy was literally teary-eyed. And then another interview with the two of them, and I thought, Don Knotts, they don't make him like Andy Griffith and Don Knotts anymore. You guys know, if you watch my channel, I tend to sentimentalize. It was a more innocent world there. Then it was a quite different world than America is now, or quite a different country. And Andy believed that as well. So let's back up now and say that Andy got his own show. Being as that Andy's values were kind of old-fashioned, he set the show in a place that was basically based on, I believe, where he was from, Mount Airy, North Carolina. Of course, called it the fictional town of Mayberry. And in Mayberry, even though the show was in the 60s, the time period that Andy wanted to reflect was more like the 30s. And he says that, you know, over and over again in interviews. And the plan was for him to be sort of a country bumpkin kind of silly guy and sheriff of this little town in North Carolina, fictional town of Mayberry. But very quickly, when the show was in development, Don Knotts heard about it and said, "Hey," called Andy, and he said, "Don't you need a deputy?" And Andy thought it was a great idea. He said, "Talk to Sheldon Leonard," the creator of the show, along with Andy, of course. And they thought it was a great idea. And originally, Don Knotts was going to be the straight man, and Andy was going to be the comic relief, or the comical character. But by, I think, the first or second episode that they shot, it was quickly found out that they would, and that was how they had it in No Time for Sergeants. But they quickly found out that if they reversed roles, it was pure magic, and it was. Don Knotts became, you know, Barney Fife is one of the iconic stumbling, bumbling, good-natured, good-hearted Barney Fife is one of the iconic characters in television history. And by reversing the roles, Andy's character of Sheriff Andy Taylor, he could sort of watch, as the straight man, watch all the kind of craziness and lunacy go on around him. And that's still done to this day. I think of the characters of Jim and Pam from The Office. They're kind of the straight man characters, and all the craziness goes on around them. And you know that had to be influenced. You know the writers were influenced by shows like Andy Griffith. That's how it works. Great writing, and that's where it starts. So, Don Knotts was known as, you know, the guy who only had one bullet in his gun, and when he did fire, which was rarely, he'd usually shoot himself in the foot. And Don and Andy Griffith really wanted, I mean, as everybody would say, really wanted a great show. And because of that, they're uncredited writers, the two of them, on a lot of the episodes, which I find very commendable. I mean, talented guys. And they didn't need the writing credit. They just wanted it to be the best show possible, and they knew their characters. So, you know, the show ran for 8 years. I believe Don left after season 5, but he certainly came back periodically throughout the last 3 years. In fact, network wanted Andy to do a 9th and maybe a 10th season, but he didn't want to do it at that point. Anyway, so hold on, be right back with you. Got to tend to my dog for a minute. All right, so let's get back to Andy Griffith's show. And I speak about Andy Griffith's show specifically in this lot because obviously that's where Don's best known character. And I think it's just interesting that he and Andy Griffith were such good friends in real life. He came to him and gave him the part because of that, or got him the part, and that they worked on the show together. It was really a labor of love, and that means a lot to me than just two strangers being hired for some show as hired guns, and, you know, hitting your mark and delivering your dialogue and going home. These guys were very close, and they really contributed to the show the whole time it was on. Don won 3 Emmys. He won 5 Emmys. 5 Emmys in the 5 years he was on. Well, I think 3 of them were during his original run, and then 2 more when he came back periodically. Well deserved, of course. After the show, he did movies. Incredible Mr. Limpet. I thought that was a bizarre film. He always worked steadily. Then he was teamed up to do some Disney comedies in the 70s. And like I said, he was always working. And then his second most famous role, of course, was that of Furley, Mr. Furley. I don't know if we never even know Furley's first name, but Ralph, of course, because I used to watch the show in its first run. Yeah, I'm dating myself. On Three's Company from 79 to 85. In fact, a lot of the dialogue that the writers, Suzanne Summers left, I believe, in 1981. A lot of the dialogue that was going to Suzanne Summers, they just gave to Ralph Furley. So his part became expanded. And John Ritter always said that at first he was kind of, excuse me as I switch here, he was kind of intimidated. The cast was kind of intimidated because they thought of, they grew up watching Andy Griffith, and they were kind of intimidated. Such a big star, Don Knotts, but they said he was what everybody says, a genuinely nice guy and very congenial. And I'm just looking around because I think we're coming up to the, I'll show you when we come to the condos again. But that he was a great fit, even though the cast was intimidated by him at first. And he did a great job. He's a very, very funny guy, very funny. And Ralph Furley, I think, extended the life of the show, too. So that was his second most popular thing. And, he kept working then into the 80s. And, gosh, he slowed down because eventually he got macular degeneration, which is a very unfortunate, serious eye condition. And I'm pausing because I got to take care of there's some traffic coming towards me that I have to avoid, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. Hold on, folks. Okay, we're back. We're almost back at the condo. So Don had macular degeneration, and of course in the end got cancer. But I also want to talk about the fact that Don was married 3 times, and in almost every interview I've seen, other guys that knew him or people that knew him said Don was quite the ladies' man. You don't think of him as the romantic, handsome, athletic type, but that's for you ladies to judge, not me. What do I know? But he was quite the ladies' man, apparently, like the girls. It's always the types you don't realize, like Curly from the Three Stooges. He was also quite the ladies' man, supposedly. Okay, here's the condo again. Don has a daughter named Karen who is a comedian and actress. And his third wife they were still together. Sorry about my head in the picture. That's the, up on the 4th floor is where Don lived, by the way. And lived there at the end of his life with his third wife. And it's interesting because in the interview that I saw with Andy Griffith, kind of paying tribute to Don, very shortly after Don died, he mentioned the wife's name. It says, great woman, really, really great woman, and really good for Don. All right, well, there's a last look at the condo in the sprawling Beverly Hills. I had to park, I have to talk loud, obviously. I had to park almost a mile away because there's no parking around here because of lots and lots of parking restrictions. But I did it for you guys, because that's how important you are to me. Okay, folks. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Dog says thanks. Can you see him there? We'll catch you at the next location. By the way, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you do subscribe, hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe button. Then you'll get indications as to when I post. And I always lose it at this point. This is the only time I go off. I stop improvising and I try to go to a script, and you'd think I'd know it better, but I actually know it worse. Anyway, so I told you to subscribe, please. I told you to hit the bell icon if you do subscribe, so you get indications of when I post. And also, please give me likes, because likes really drive the channel. And maybe someday I'll get gas money, at least doing this from this. At this point, it's just a labor of love, although it's not labor because there's no payment for it. But anyway, please support the channel. Please give me likes and comment in the comment section if you see fit. And I will say thanks again. And I'll see you at the next location. All right, folks. Thanks again. Bye-bye.